Red vs. Blue Season 17 Episode 5, The Not So Good Old Days, has officially released, so let me break it down for you. So way back in the days of Recovery 1, Wash runs into Wyoming. He can't allow Wash to get to Blood Gulch as he is tasked with killing Tucker. But Wash is too concerned with other things. While he did intend on breaking the cycle with the Reds and Blues first, he soon comes to the realization that once that's done, Genkins will essentially glue himself to Carolina. So instead, the plan changes. He intends on breaking Carolina free first, then going to the Reds and the Blues. One problem, he doesn't know what happened to Carolina or where she went after Maine chucked her off a cliff. So Wash goes back in time to figure that out. He runs into his old pal York, who refuses to admit that he likes Carolina, South, who roasts him, nice guy North, and bitchy Carolina, who he can't get an answer from, let alone a single conversation. He ultimately is incapable of figuring anything out, and so he vents to the only people who will give him the time of day and indulge his scenario, the triplets. They tell him what is actually the only logical thing to do, and that's jump to a future where they're already friends and just ask her. That really just goes to show that these idiots are actually the most big-brained people in the show. Because if you think about it, what was Wash's plan? He kept trying to figure out where Carolina would go before the event ever happened. Even if he asked her where she would have gone, it's still a completely hypothetical scenario at that point. So Wash, 100% more stupid than the triplets. Anyway, so Wash goes into the future where he asks her where she went. She tells him that in an effort to stay low and remain hidden, she rejoined the UNSC. The Great War required everyone and anyone available, and so Carolina sought to blend into a generic group. And so Wash heads off to find her. And he does what he does best at this time, pull rank. He and Carolina have a not so nice reunion, as at first he must explain why he has Delta and what happened to York. After that, he convinces her that he wants to kill the director, and the two team up, fully trusting one another. First things first. 479er's name is Ash? What? Talk about lore. I know everyone's been clamoring to know what became of her. I believe there was supposed to be a story about her in season 14, but it ended up getting scrapped. So it seems kind of like, hey, here are some of the fruits of that concept. Listen, I'll take it where I can get it. Anyway, she's not really relevant to this episode. The Project Freelancer stuff. What can I say? I loved it. Once again, the nostalgia card. Yes, the season is playing it. It's one of its strongest assets, and I think it's doing it wisely. Often, anytime it uses nostalgia, it's for its comedic moments. Anytime the story gets more serious, it's in a scenario we've never seen. Wash figuring out what happened to Carolina when she went MIA, an unanswered question for so long. But considering it's something new for the audience, it spends a lot more time with those scenes. A lot of the Project Freelancer stuff went by very quick. It was hitting you with some laughs, jumping between scenarios like that, making sure it wasn't giving you the opportunity to be bored in scenarios that don't exactly contribute to moving the plot forward. But when it noticeably takes a step forward, it lets those moments play out. The characters get the opportunity to talk to each other and have moments. That's not exclusive to this episode. The season's been doing it throughout, and it's a nice balance between everything in my opinion. Something else I wanted to bring up, it's not relevant to this episode, but I've been thinking about it. It's about Genkins. So the Everwin requires people who go through it to visit past memories and jump around them. We've been seeing Wash and Donut do a fair amount of that, but the thing about Genkins is that he's capable of using the Everwin door in a different way. He's not restricted to one individual. He's possessed people like the Alpha, Epsilon, Santa, Andy, Freckles. So unlike Wash and Donut, Genkins has more bodies to choose from. So he is an exception to the rule of the Everwin. Obviously, you could chalk that up to him being a god. But what's interesting and has kept me thinking is how he seems to have a restriction to it all. While he is jumping around multiple bodies, quote unquote, they've all been AI. He hasn't possessed an actual person yet. So it makes me wonder, how restricted is he? Because Wash was concerned that once he learned of the plan he'd stick to Carolina, but I don't know what presumption that's under. Thinking perhaps only of times she's in possession of Epsilon? Or maybe he thinks Genkins can take over anyone, and so it'd be York Genkins locked side by side with her. But the thing is, if he is restricted to AI, Wash's job is still hard. He's got Delta, Alpha's at Blood Gulch, Tex, who is Beta, is still alive, who has Omega, not to forget Lopez, Sheila, Andy the Bob may or may not be in existence right now. He's incredibly fucked one way or the other. But that thought process led me to think, Can Genkins be killed inside of the Everone? Is it possible to actually die? If Genkins is restricted to an AI life form, it's incredibly hard for Wash and Donut to get rid of him, as he could likely jump to whatever AI he likes. And so that continued to make me think, how do you kill Genkins? Well, he's an AI, and if there's one memory that Wash has as a trump card in his arsenal, it's the EMP. It's the moment where all of the AI are gathered and wiped out. So if Genkins is capable of being killed, Wash has got to lure him to that moment where he has nowhere to go. It's weird that all of these thoughts came from an episode that did absolutely nothing to contribute to these thoughts whatsoever. But right now, that's the end game for Genkins I'm picturing. Don't know about Krovos, but Genkins, I think that's a plan if I've ever heard one. Anyway, this episode was still good. I'm mainly just happy my fear didn't come true. But seeing Project Freelancer in its more youthful state was nice to see again. I'm happy when I see North and South not killing each other. Project Freelancer has yet to fully destroy everyone and their ties to everything. So it's nice to go back to a moment before everything was fucking terrible for these people. Plus, Carolina's more emotional state with her life after was also a treat to see. I sometimes forget that her and York had a thing. I like seeing Carolina like this because it's typically an emotion she tends not to show. It was once again a very good episode, and we'll see how things play out in the next one.